Okay, hey, welcome everybody. It's 7 o'clock on Wednesday. That means it's time for Sci-Fi Distilled. Welcome back, Mary Beth.
Hello, hello.
And how's everything going with you?
It goes, but we are in day 97 of thunder and torrential.
Yeah, it's getting a little. Those of us that are in the Northeast here, I don't know where everybody else is, but it's been this what do they call it? An unsettled pattern.
Unsettled, very
So
unsettled.
we're getting a lot of rain on and off. Some heavy storms in some places.
Yes, yeah, we've had some significant storms.
Yeah, luckily we haven't had too much of that, but hope wherever you are, hope everybody's safe. Of course, fires are still raging across Canada.
They are.
Get that crap under control. Let's go.
Come on, Canada. Hi, Dr. Alexander. Hi, Jeff, and hi, Martin Bend. How is everybody tonight?
So tonight we're not really a series. I guess we just decided since last week we did Spielberg's kind of first big film with Duel. We thought George Lucas would be a good one to do with THX 1138.
They're both 1971, the year of my
both
birth.
1971. So although the original one he did in college was
yes, that's true. That is true. Yes.
So, but before we do that, I assume we have news.
I have news. I have 5 pieces of news tonight. We're going to discuss them all. Did I already report this news? And tell me if I already reported this news. Back in May, crews set up to shoot the Twister sequel in parts of Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. The sequel, called Twisters, like, aliens, Twisters, is scheduled to be released July 19, 2024. It will star Glenn Powell, who we just saw as Hangman in Top Gun Maverick. No word on if Helen Hunt will be involved. Of course, we lost her co-star Bill Paxton in 2017, and we lost Philip Seymour Hoffman in 2014. Did you know that there was a Twister movie museum in Waukeeta?
I did not.
Waukeeta head on.
There's
a Twister museum in Waukeeta. So those of you, should you ever find yourselves in Kansas or wherever the heck Waukeeta is. Also in filming news.
Sorry, let me get rid of that. Sorry. That was for our countdown for.
Our countdown. Okay.
Sorry.
Also in filming news, Rizzo told me this last week, and now it's popping up on social media. Beetlejuice 2. Those sets are under construction in Corinth, Vermont.
Yep, not very far away from me, only about 20 miles or so.
No, you can go check them out.
Yeah, I think I might want. If I get a decent weekend where it's not raining.
Yeah, right? I feel bad for them. But someone was showing it on. They got the covered bridge, the hardware store, and the house.
The covered bridge is now 2 lanes.
Yes.
It's been updated over the last 30 some odd years.
It's an actual road, which makes me wonder, like when a film crew comes and builds a covered bridge over your road, do you then keep it? Like, do you just keep it as
I guess if it's functional, my guess is it probably wasn't built to last.
Yeah, it's probably
when you build things for movies, you don't build them to last. And so I guess they had to put a fake facade over the general store because the original one was such.
Yes, they did. Yes, yeah.
So
moving on, changes are afoot at DC. The post-credit scene of The Flash, haven't seen it yet, so don't spoil it for me. The post-credit scenes of The Flash confirmed we're about to have a new actor playing Batman in the DC universe, and none of the previous actors will be reprising their role. What did you guys think of The Flash? Should I see it? And are you looking forward to the new Batman actor?
I did not see the Flash movie. I am not interested in seeing the Flash movie.
I'll see it when it comes on Disney.
It's like, I think if you're a man working in Hollywood long enough, you eventually play Batman. I mean, it's just kind of getting ridiculous. It's almost like Spider-Man. It's like
everyone has a turn.
Except Spider-Man, you can't really do it as an old guy. So.
Oh God, that's funny. So when you're younger, you do. Yeah. Oh God.
I don't know. It's like they've redone it so many times.
You've arrived when they choose.
It's like I guess it keeps making money.
Yeah, Batman.
I mean, clearly they keep making them for a reason.
Flash is a little controversial, but yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I never was into the TV shows. I guess I'm not a DC guy at all. So I literally just watched Quantum Mania the other night.
I do have. Oh, did you really? I do have some Marvel news later, but let's move on here. Is the San Diego Comic-Con heading to its worst year in recent memory. In the last few years, the once illustrious event has begun to lose its popularity. It got shut down by the pandemic for a couple years. And in the meantime, the studios have begun hosting their own fan events outside of Comic-Con. Disney has D3, Netflix has that Tudum I was talking about last week, the Tudum event. Star Wars has Star Wars Day, practically Star Wars month at this point. Even Star Trek kind of feels like it's moving toward developing its own day. Picard Day, Frontier Day.
Frontier Day would be my guess.
Yeah. So now major studios are sitting out of the 2023 Comic-Con. So there's no Marvel, no Lucasfilm, no Netflix, no Universal Pictures, and no Sony. That's huge. Like, that's the spine. That's the backbone of Comic-Con. Like, that's what people go to see. So that's weird. So they're scrambling. And the other thing affecting it is if SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild Union, if they can't, in their motion picture or whatever, if they don't come to terms by June 30th, which is this Friday, and the Actors Guild goes on strike, the actors will join the writers and the showrunners with these ongoing Hollywood labor issues. So everyone will be on strike. And I don't know, you guys, if that means no appearances. I'm not sure. No one has mentioned anything that would affect Trek Condoroga to me, so I think we're okay. He plots. He'd die.
We all would.
I don't know what's going on. But San Diego Comic-Con, I know you're scrambling to provide programming. I feel you, girl. I've been there.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay, this is it. Let's do it. We're going to talk about it. You ready? Here we go. We need to talk about Star Trek Prodigy. Last November, Prodigy Season 2 got the green light from Paramount Plus, and it is in post-production right now. And then suddenly last week, we got the shocking news that Paramount Plus had canceled Prodigy. And they didn't just cancel it. They've already pulled it from Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I don't know why they pulled it off the platform.
I know why.
Okay.
It's because they're shopping it around. They will let another network buy it. Maybe Netflix will buy it.
Yeah, but why wouldn't, I guess, yeah.
People, understandably, flipped, collective, like they flipped out. Twitter was on fire. People were freaking. The Star Trek sector helped coin the hashtag Save Star Trek Prodigy. And the thing is, here's the thing. Here's why people are flipping out. When CBS All Access, do you guys remember CBS All Access? When it switched to Paramount Plus, they specifically advertised for Star Trek. They specifically said, every series, every episode. Your one-stop repository for all things Trek. And now they've just up and dumped Prodigy. The backlash against Paramount on Twitter has been unreal. So when Paramount has their ads, like they put an ad up, you should see the comments. Hundreds of comments underneath each ad all saying, no, I'm canceling my subscription. What did you do to Prodigy? Why did you dump Prodigy? Like, they just put on.
Interestingly enough, I literally just got a message from Amazon, who I buy my CBS.
Yes.
That the price is going
up. It's going up $10 more. Me too.
Well, not 10, 12. $3.
Mine's $10. Mine's going from $49 to $59.
$11.99, $2. Well, I have the no commercial.
I pay it for the year. It's for the year. I'm going from $49
I pay $11. I was paying $9.99 a month, and it's going up to $11.99 a month. So Anson Mount, Bruce Horrick, a whole bunch of others are all tweeting hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. So
yes.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't understand. Well, I guess if you're saying they're going to shop it around, but clearly what needs to, I know everybody's saying they love it. I didn't really care for it, but whatever. It was a kid's show. Clearly it didn't get the views. Everybody's saying they loved it, but they didn't watch it.
I have information on that.
Remember when Mike Okuda was always saying, it's not just that you watch it once, it's how many repeat views.
I do have information on that.
Okay. So it must not. That's the only thing. They wouldn't dump it if it was getting big numbers.
They're supposedly dumping it for a tax break. All right. In the meantime, so what's happening?
But it seemed why. I mean,
here's what's happening.
I guess I don't understand.
In the meantime, Prodigy physical media, actual DVDs, Blu-rays, toys, sold out, gone. Target, Walmart, Amazon, anywhere you go look for Prodigy stuff, gone. Gizmodo.com ran a story with the headline, the actual headline, a real headline. Paramount's Star Trek struggle is a shit show of its own making. When you look at the ratings, They're right middle of the road ratings. They're not super high, but they're not low. They're middle of the road. But what we figure is happening, Prodigy was being watched, but it was being watched by adults. And this thing was marketed to kids, and it was picked up by Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon ran it in conjunction with Paramount. So on Nickelodeon, there would have been ads like Captain Crunch and Fruit Loops and Twinkies and toys, which there was zero ROI for those advertisers if there was all 30-year-old adults watching this thing. We think that's what happened.
Well, it's possible, but the fact of the matter is that it was originally designed to be a kid show if adults like it. And this has happened before.
How many kids
in England, like Teletubbies was a kid show, which is a very kid show, yet somehow it became a phenomenon for like the entire country. I don't know if there's any of our folks across the pond there watching, but so I don't know. I mean, if you like the show, great. I watched the first season and was less than impressed with it. I felt it was a kid show. I'm sorry. I just didn't see the big deep dark.
It was a Voyager sequel. I mean, you kind
of and then again, and then to my I'm not a Voyager fan. I never was a Janeway fan.
So then
so there was a lot of things that were strikes on it for me. If you liked it, great. I'm not dissing it, but we all know that Paramount in general has been kind of a shit show.
Yeah, it has.
I mean, if we look at what they produced and how much they've screwed up the franchise.
Yeah. But there's a true sense of betrayal out there because Paramount told us we're going to have all the Star Trek.
Why couldn't they do this with Discovery? I'll agree with you on that one, Jeff.
All right. My last piece of news for tonight before we move on. Do not send all of your ire to Paramount. Save some for Marvel. Marvel is also under criticism for its new show Secret Invasion, which I did watch the opening episode last week. I said the first episode was supposed to be shocking, and it was, and it wasn't for the death of a certain beloved character at the end of the episode, which I will not spoil. No. It was the opening credits. The show's opening credits, which is this animated thing, are made by Method Studio, a fairly renowned digital effects house, and they used AI to generate this. People flipped out because this is exactly one of the things that the writers are striking against. Part of the reason that they don't want AI art is because it draws on thousands of sources across the internet and can pull your art off the internet and use it without asking permission or giving credit. So it becomes very, very blurry. What's human created, what's AI, which kind of, I guess, is blurry, which is perfect for a show where it's really blurry on who's human and who's Skrull, but whatever. But it's just screwed up the entertainment industry. AI is screwing up the entertainment industry because it's fewer and fewer jobs for humans.
Yeah, and the thing with technology, it's always ahead of legislation. So we're always behind. I think eventually the legislation will catch up to somehow address the issue of AI, or at least using it in your production.
Yes, how do
you do that? That's left to people that that write laws, I guess, to figure that out.
If you guys
traditionally, whenever we have new technologies, we always kind of have these issues where there's no laws to really control them until we catch up.
Well, the argument for the AI, but the argument is, hey, remember when they invented the car and all the people that made buggies and horse whips went on this? Yeah.
Well, there's always that too, that as we progress technologically, people will lose their jobs.
People change their jobs, yeah.
But, I mean, we may get to a point where the entire film industry is just run by computers and they just punch in an idea and, the computer comes up with the rest. I don't know. Probably won't happen in our lifetime, I would think, but
I hope not.
It is what it is. I
don't want to see someone like Baron Dochterman out of work.
How many films are actually shot on film?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? And there's nowhere. Is there anybody processing film? They're probably very expensive because there's only a few places that'll actually process actual film anymore because nobody uses it.
That's true.
So
if you guys want to see a really great in-depth look at this, check out Screen Crush. And if you want to see a good in-depth look at the Paramount Prodigy, check out Trek Culture. And now, speaking of Star Trek, we have some strange new thoughts.
We're doing that now.
Yeah, we're doing that now. Sorry.
All right, let me get the timer here from the beginning.
Yes, this is a professionally.
We're doing that now. Okay, we're done. All right, there we go.
Oh, there's
Our timer's going. So, so this was this second episode for Strange New World was basically a courtroom drama. We had Una, who is on trial because she lied to Starfleet about being an Illyrian, or not Illyrian. What is she?
Yeah, Illyrian.
Illyrian, and so they're genetically modified. There's a lot of holes in that whole law thing because there was an episode I literally just watched season 2 of TNG where they were doing. Remember the one where they were aging? It was kind of like Deadly Years, but what's her name? The doctor caught it was like a virus. They caught it from these. I don't want to take up too much time, but anyway, they were doing genetic experiments on human beings. But apparently it wasn't illegal in TNG era. Only maybe they got rid of the law. Anyway, so it wasn't a bad episode. I think overall
it was better than last week.
It was better than the first one. There really wasn't anything. Like I said, there's nothing action happened wise. It was pretty much a courtroom drama.
Courtroom.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot.
I really enjoyed. Yeah. So this was a woke episode. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Spock's little outburst. That was adorable. I really enjoyed Yetide Badaki, who played Nira. She was fantastic. I could not help but notice, and both Ready Room and Trek Culture pointed this out, that this is the second time now that Rebecca Romijn has played a character that is different in some way. And they said, why don't you just go back to hiding, or why don't you just look? And the character said, because I shouldn't have to. The first character was Mystique, and the second character was, of course, Una. Yeah.
I was going to say, I said it to you after I watched it. I said the one thing I thought they should have done, which would have been great, if they somehow worked in Samuel T. Cogley, attorney at law, from court martial, because he would have been alive and around in this era. So it would have, even if it was just a mention, like, can we get Samuel Cogley, to defend or something?
The only nod to him was that Nira had a book, like a real book, and that was
but the thing would always kind of crack because this is where I think they miss opportunities. For that to me would have been a great fan.
Where they missed the opportunity is they've created this loophole now for Una, but did they address the underlying issue and correct Starfleet itself? No. Why? They couldn't. There's no way they could have anyway because of Deep Space Nine. They had to still be screwed up for Bashir.
That's right. So it's still in place in TNG era, but then we play fast and furious with the loose, so to speak, with the rules on these shows. So. But it was a good episode. I'm a little fearful for the one coming tomorrow because it looks like a time travel episode.
It should be interesting. I do have a couple observations on that, but I was hoping it was Gary 7, but I don't think it is.
All right, and that's it. And
Time.
Okay,
you can all unmute now.
You can all unmute.
Oh, we forgot our banner yelling at them to mute.
I always forget to do that. Sorry, you threw this at me the last second. I didn't get
sorry. I thought sorry. Okay. Just so you know, it will come after the news.
It'll come after the news. When you see the timer go up, just mute. Okay, so anyway, THX 1138.
Do we have a beverage to drink with THX?
We do. Yes, thank you.
Again, we are so professionally produced.
I had a really busy day.
We have segments now. Like we've maybe grown beyond our capability.
Well, here it is, the Happy Pill. I'm not going to go through all these ingredients, but it's on the Facebook page.
I'm sure it'll make you happy.
There's all kinds of stuff. It does look like it might be good. So it's very fruity. Very fruity. It would probably make you happy.
It'll make you happy.
All right. So
here we go.
So here we go. So we have George Lucas' dystopian film of basically. They don't do a lot of backstory as to what the society or why it's there. It's just that it's some kind of underground or in contained society. In other words, they're in some kind of building, very Logan's Run-like in some ways, where they're kind of like in a dome or underground. And they're very controlled through drugs, primarily.
It's like Brave New World
for you not to take drugs.
Yes,
in this society, everybody is shaved bald. It's very uniform, very 1984. You see a lot of Orwellian stuff in here.
Very
Brave New World. So it's that kind of when dystopian where society has run amok and everything is controlled. And the weird thing about this film, I always thought that it almost has like this communist feel, like people are all like, but then it's like purchase and spend money and like the announcements are buy things
and be happy.
So, but yet you don't see you see their apartment and there's like nothing in it. So like,
Yes.
what are they buying?
What are they buying? And he buys a suit and then he throws it away, which was supposed to be symbolic of consumerism.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should have been full of stuff if they were being forever.
Yeah, it just didn't that kind of didn't really, I don't know. Maybe somebody else can explain and has an explanation for it. But so basically, it's this one character played by Robert Duvall. Of course, nobody has any names; they're all just number designations. THX 1138, or his roommate. It wasn't even his girlfriend because sex is also outlawed. Apparently, appropriation is only
just roommate.
Yeah, they were just a roommate, but clearly they had a relationship. She got pregnant.
Well, I don't think he cared one way or the other. He just had a roommate. This was all her idea.
True. She was driving that to some degree.
Which was a little weird, a little Adam and Eve kind of weirdness there.
Well, they never really see what happens to her because you find out she gets taken away when he gets taken away.
And then she's been, what was the word? Consumed. No, was that what the word?
Yeah, well, they have the one scene where they're together in the white.
The void, yeah, the white
void thing, which is kind of a cool prison. Yes, you don't know where to go. It's just like you're nowhere. But yeah. So, but then we don't see her again after that. They take her away, and then that's the last time you see her. So I don't know what's going on there. So yeah, it's really it's what I was curious to see what your reaction was because you had never seen this before, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
no, but it was fascinating, and everyone of course sees the very, very obvious imagery, sounds, certain things, parallels to Star Wars, but I couldn't help but notice some pretty interesting parallels to Andor. Andor, particularly the scenes where he's in that prison with Andy Serkis. There, can't think of that character's name. Yeah, a lot of parallels there. The whiteness, the white uniforms, the way they made them work and the efficiency. And they were basically both in Andor and in this thing, they were building the very machinery of their own demise. In Andor, they're building parts to the Death Star. And in this thing, they're building more of those robots,
the police
cops, the police robots.
Which I noticed one kind of, I don't know if it was really a goof, but it was definitely an inconsistency. Is there's one scene where there's two of the cops walking another prisoner, and one is clearly like 8 inches taller than the other.
Yeah, was that Johnny Weissmuller?
And I'm like, but if they're robots, wouldn't they be all like the same?
I noticed that too, that one was taller and thinner, but I noticed that Johnny Weissmuller, not Tarzan, but maybe it was Tarzan, but yeah, Johnny Weissmuller Jr. played one of those cops. So I was like, well, that must have been him, the tall one.
I don't know. When I noticed it, I was watching it. I'm like, well, that's kind of inconsistent.
Oh, what a funny, weird little thing this was.
Yeah. So originally this was a film that he did at USC in college called Electronic Labyrinth THX 1138 for EB in 1967.
Yes. And
so the name THX 1138 came from his phone number in San Francisco.
Yes.
So the 1138 was the last 4 digits, and the THX are the corresponding numbers
for the first 3. And only those of us old enough to remember, dial or push pad.
Well, I mean, they're still on the phone. The letters are still on the phone.
I suppose they are.
So that's where he got the name. Of course, we know anybody who knows anything about George Lucas knows that he sticks the THX or the 1138 or both in every single film he's done. It was in American Graffiti. It was on a license plate. Of course, in Star Wars, it was the cell block 1138. And of course, when he did Phantom Menace, the surround sound system that he built was THX. So it's all over the place. So I don't think I saw it in Indiana Jones, although that was Spielberg more than it was.
Yeah, Indiana Jones. It was. I'm pretty sure there was the C-3PO and the R2-D2 in the hierarchy.
Right, there was definitely that. That was in the map room scene. It's in the hieroglyphs. There's an R2-D2 and a C-3PO. But so it was a really bizarre film. They didn't put any makeup on the actors to try to make it look real, and you could tell the ones that are naturally bald, the ones that weren't. Because
even Robert Duvall,
because there's they could tell where they weren't tan.
Yeah. He did do a making of. He called it Bald, making of THX 1138, and they showed her. They showed the lead girl. In a later interview, when she was quite a bit older, she's like, "Oh, I loved it. It was so exciting." But when you watch Bald making of, she really looks upset. She does not look happy to be getting her head shaved, but she looked fine. They all looked fine.
Well, I mean, it'll grow back unless you're
yeah.
me or something, you know.
Of course it will. Of course it will.
It's not the first time that actors have had to shave their head for a role. And, you know, skull caps would not have worked. So
no, not for this.
Not for this. And that, again, that was kind of the whole theme of it, is that everybody was the same. Everybody's, you know, bald. Everybody wears the white outfit.
Yes.
There's this, you know, you're kind of just a cog in a machine, you know, I just love there's at one point early in the film, there's an explosion at one of the factory floors where they're building these robots, I guess. And they actually see a scene where they're hauling out like what's left of some of these carcasses, but they're so, you know, there's an emergency, but you know, you don't leave your workstation, you know,
we kind of backed up, like they kind of ran back, and then
they're like, you know, we're gonna, there was an explosion, but there's no danger, you know.
Please return to your.
Yeah, it's like, that voice. It's very that whole voice. There was some of that. I forgot where they have to find. There was a.
Yeah, they filmed
got the voices were from a troupe.
A
acting troupe.
Speaking, they did.
And some of the lines were actually from Nixon's speeches.
Yeah, some of the lines that Donald Pleasance, who I adore, he plays Sen, whatever, and he's a little off kilter. He's just off, and he starts kind of rambling when he ends up in jail with them. But I wanted to ask you about that, because a couple things that I don't understand. One of which
just a couple.
Where's my list of things I don't understand? I actually wrote them down. So, what I wanted to talk about was the mind lock. So Lucas is specifically showing this bureaucratic universe that has kind of this oppressive government, but there's no clear, like in Star Wars, it's very clear. Like you see Vader, and then above Vader is the Emperor. Like there's a hierarchy, but this is much more.
No, it's like everybody's part of a machine, and like you have the people that are directing stuff, you know, from like a control room, but they don't look like they're in charge. It's almost like the computers are in charge, because they're very. It's the contrast in this film to me was this dystopian, very Orwellian controlled society with this very monetary based, you know, consumerism almost parallel to it going on at the same time. And money is always a big issue, because remember, the whole thing is like, it says if you know, when they're trying to capture him when he escapes at the end.
Yes, and
they're like, okay, you know, if you exceed the budget by 5%,
so is that all you have to do is just wait till you've exceeded budget, and then you're free?
And that's essentially what happens. The robot was chasing him, and he finally stops because he's like, wait, come back, because if he goes any farther, it costs him money.
He's like,
I don't know how actually physically the robot chasing him is costing money, but so that's how he gets away. He just basically stays ahead of him long enough that the bill got too high. I want to get back.
I actually want to get back to the government and the mind, because I want to talk about that mind lock a little bit. The fact that there was no clear like chain of command, was the mind, because when the mind lock happens, it's an accident. And when you listen to the dialogue that's happening superimposed over the mind lock, they're saying, yeah, do it, and then no, stop, don't. And other people going, no, don't do it. Because he's working with this radioactive thing. And was that supposed to be an example of the bureaucracy just like not like?
I don't know. You know, there's a lot of stuff. You'd have to ask George that. I think there's just a lot of stuff in this movie that just doesn't really make sense, and I wonder if it was never really meant to make sense.
Maybe.
Like it's just because, like I said, there's no, like you said, that I said earlier, there's no backstory, there's no structure to this film.
I went back. The mind lock scene is on YouTube. I went back and rewatched it and listened to and wrote down. If you guys are interested, I wrote down all the dialogue that happens, because I was trying to understand. Because it was another woman. She looked a lot like La, but she wasn't La. Her name was Susan something. The actress's name was Susan something. She's one of my roads tonight, interestingly enough. She seems to be the one that does it, because I thought it was La, and I thought it was La being mean to him for some reason. And then I realized, oh, no, that's not her. That's not her. So this girl just overrides it, and she's like, yeah, we're going to do the mind lock. And doesn't she realize that he's at work and he could hurt? Like,
whatever that little glowing radioactive.
And because part of their little mantra is don't cause accidents. Yeah, don't cause accidents or prevent accidents or something. So she literally did not prevent an accident. Like that whole thing just. What was that?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in this film that just doesn't make It just doesn't make sense. But again, I don't know if it was supposed to. I think the overall theme is that you have this weird controlled society, and we don't even know. He gets out on the dome surface at the end.
Yeah.
And there's the sun, the sunset thing.
another
so
Lucas.
We assume that it's okay out there. And again, it was just kind of like, like almost like Silo.
Yeah, it's not like Silo. You could go out.
It's like you could go out. But the weird thing was there was also this outer shell they were talking about where these other weird creatures, and they're kind of like monkeys, but they really weren't supposed to be monkeys. They were like some kind of weird mutated.
That part was very Logan's Run-esque.
It was very strange. Yeah. The cool thing, I love the cars. The police cars were really cool.
Cars were very, very cool.
They're like little race cars.
Then the hologram, and I can't think of his call sign, his number, the black guy, like he just right into a pole. Like he literally just ran it.
Because he didn't know how to drive a car. You figure
the concept of steering.
Like I don't know.
Robert Duvall figured it out real quick.
I mean, he did, but the guy couldn't even figure out how to start it. So I don't know. But yeah, why do they have all these highways and stuff if nobody can drive?
But if no one was driving,
it's just for the police.
Or if you didn't go out, what were those roads for?
Maybe they were there from a previous time before the society went. You know what I'm saying? Again, they don't. You leave a lot of holes for you to kind of fill in your own theory, I guess. I don't know. It's really hard. They don't explain a lot, and I don't think they want to.
George, I was watching an interview with George Lucas, and he was saying how much he admired. They wanted to film this in Japan, and Francis Ford Coppola, his fledgling American Zoetrope, was producing this, and he very quickly realized we cannot afford to film in Japan. But the reason Lucas really loved, and we all know that Star Wars is based on a Japanese story, but he really, really loved in Japan. They would tell a story, and they would just jump in, and they'd be doing some ritual, and they wouldn't explain to you. You just either rolled with it and got it, or you didn't. Like he liked that. He really admired jumping into an existing situation and not necessarily knowing what's going on, which is exactly what he does here. These people all have their kind of existing ways of doing things, and you got to jump in and swim or not. And the studio, I guess, was like, what the hell is this? Like they had no idea what to do with it. They were looking for American Graffiti Part 2, and
American Graffiti hadn't been made yet.
I mean, maybe it hadn't been made
73 yet. American Graffiti was 73. This film actually, what happened was he made the film in 67 at USC. It was very widely acclaimed.
Yes.
The original film. It's so much so that Warner Brothers said, "Hey, we want you to make this as a feature."
Yes.
So they made the feature. He made this film. It bombed. I can't imagine. I can't imagine why
Warner Brothers pulled out of American Zoetrope because they were like, "We don't know what you're doing."
So, but somehow critics and people that were really into it, I guess, the right people liked it enough or saw promise in it. That's how he got American Graffiti. And of course, because of when American Graffiti was a huge success, that's how he got to do Star Wars.
Yeah, and just speaking of that, the studio did not know what this is, did not know what to make of it, chopped 4 or 5 minutes out, and he was annoyed at that. Just so you guys know, I happened to watch the director's cut, not the theatrical cut. It was available on Amazon Prime.
The theatrical cut was never available after it was.
Oh, so I guess I had no choice.
When they brought it back out after Star Wars, they edited it. There was stuff they added to it. The scene where he's kind of masturbating, which is kind of weird.
I saw
that was added. Obviously they had shot it, and then they must have went and put it back in. But there's a few scenes that they put back in after Star Wars because they figured, ooh, Lucas is a big hit now. Let's throw it.
So they put it back in. But having the studio mess with this movie like this really annoyed him, and I don't know how it worked with American Graffiti, but we know that Star Wars was very, very much an independent project of his. Like he really did not want to rely on the studio. He did not want the studio messing with him. He did not want the studio interfering. He wanted to just do his thing.
We hear this theme a lot with directors, though. You know what I'm saying? You go all the way back to Orson Welles.
True.
And Citizen Kane. That was, again, he was the one film they always said that that the studio wouldn't let the studio touch a frame of it. And we know that studios their only goal is to make money. They could care less.
Yeah, it
whether
is
the
show
film
business.
is actually any good.
I
as
too
long as it
forget the
sells-
business
sells
side of
tickets.
show business.
So that's what they care about. So they tend to muck things up.
Yeah.
And we see this more than once. I mean, we've seen it even with as something as recent as Firefly, when Fox ran them out of order, and and just because they didn't think the first episode was the pilot episode.
Might
was
explain a
good
few
enough.
things.
Yeah. So the studio's usually wrong.
You hear that, studios?
I think that's the theme of the whole.
Fuck
The
you.
studio is usually wrong.
The studio is usually wrong. That
Yeah, like I said, you saw the offer with the whole with the Godfather, and now granted that was a dramatization, but it was based in fact.
and that would have been
the same
after this
thing where
too.
Paramount and ultimately Gulf Western that owned Paramount was trying to, pull the strings on this film to make it fit what they thought was going to be profitable.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to kind of watch the evolution of, like, Francis Ford Coppola's work, Lucas's work, as they do better and better and they make more and more money, they can be more and more independent. But in the beginning, you kind of have to rely on other people's money to sort of get your stuff started, to get it out there. So then Francis Ford Coppola, who was executive producing this, would have learned from this experience as he went on to do The Godfather.
Yeah. Was
Which,
around the same
by the
time,
way,
right?
starred Robert Duvall.
What year was The Godfather?
70s.
So it's almost like these things were happening concurrently. It was right around the same time. But before Coppola did, he hadn't done a lot. He wasn't. So obviously Godfather put him on the map.
1972. So this was literally the next year.
Right before.
So he honestly may have already met with Mario Puzo and have been writing with him.
Yeah, I wonder if he was, because remember, he's the executive producer. He wasn't producing,
he
wasn't directing, so he probably was just guiding George along. So I bet you they were happening concurrently.
Yes,
for a lot of it.
I'm just reading some of the comments. People are saying hi to Tilly. Tilly says hi back. Tilly is afraid of thunder, which is why she is we're having a huge storm, so that's why she is hanging out with me tonight. Yeah, guys, this was very dystopian. Crystal Rose called it very Metropolis. Yeah, it was very Metropolis.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels in science fiction for this.
A lot of the science fiction.
Like I said, I saw George Orwell all over this thing. I think Strange New World, Brave New World rather, is probably accurate too. There's a lot of little bits and pieces of different. Metropolis, certainly.
When you're talking about that kind of dystopic future of sort of overarching control, like government control, yeah, this fits the bill. And guys, there's a big argument out there that if we took the fantasy element away from Star Wars would just be another dystopic Orwellian science fiction. You put that fantasy element of the Jedi and all that back in, and suddenly it becomes.
But yeah, you have an over oppressive government controlling the population through force.
And it's interesting.
And in this instance, they didn't really. It wasn't through force; it was through drugs. They kept everybody so.
Which is the same as Brave New World, where they just
wasted. Yeah, right. They just kept everybody so wasted that they just didn't have any desire.
The other thing in Brave New World, do you guys remember? Is they also encouraged the consumerism, purchasing things. There was a little rhyme, like how they say Ford's in his flivver, all's right in the world. There was some little rhyme. It was like a Stitch in Time, but it was basically saying why repair it when you can buy a new one. If anybody remembers from Brave New World, that little.
I have not seen that film.
I've never seen it. I've read it.
The one with there was a film. I only saw I didn't read the book. I know I saw there was a film with Keir Dullea actually as the lead role.
Oh, was there really?
Yeah, and that was many, many years ago.
Oh, but what I was going to say was that when you see these dystopic views of the government, Andor is a really fascinating look at, like, when you see Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back and all that, you see the Empire, their side of it, but then Andor is the side of the people who don't have the Force, like just the side of the common people. And some of them aren't doing so great. Some of them, like Mon Mothma, live in these great cities. They're in government, so they have some luxuries and they live in these great places. But then,
well, again, even in communist Russia, there were elites.
Well, sure. Yeah. Some people took the nice part.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that again kind of fits the bill. But remember, it was kind of not to go off a tangent. Hello, welcome to our show. Star Wars, the way the Empire came in, you already had kind of this society of rich people, and and then the government kind of started to control everything. I imagine but they kind of implied again I think in Andor and stuff that if you weren't with the Empire, you kind of lost your your fortune. In other words, they would basically squash you.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anywho, what else can we say about this film? I do know that they added, that was another thing they added. They made the car chase at the end longer.
They did, and that motorcycle stunt was quite the stunt. There was
that was on a dummy. That when he kind of hits the paint scaffolding and the bike flips over and the guy ends up doing like a backflip,
flies through the air.
That was really a stunt, man. And actually,
and
a lot of people thought he was hurt because they couldn't believe, and they ran out there, and he was angry at them because he thought they ruined the shot because he didn't want to do it again.
And I don't blame him because it looked like it hurt.
Because it looked like it hurt.
It did look like it hurt.
So, that was another thing that's weird with this film. If you notice, the opening credits scroll down.
I noticed that also.
Which is kind of weird. Did you notice? But didn't it bug you?
Yeah, it did actually.
Like it does. Like you're so used to credits.
Scrolling up. They should scroll
that when they come down this way.
Yeah, like, that was weird. Like having to look up for the information didn't work. The other thing is at the beginning now is that whole, or at least I saw the whole, not Flash, Buck Rogers segment.
Yeah, that's it. And again, the original film had something else. Had that right because you get this weird. Because I remember the first time I watched it, I'm like, is this like an error? Like, what am I watching? Like, why is this an old Buck Rogers promo? But the original one, I gotta find it now. Was the trailer? Yeah. No, there's I gotta find it. But it was an old 1934 film. It was even older, the original one. I don't know why they changed it to the Buck Rogers one. I don't know why it was in there in the first place.
I saw Lucas kind of explain it, and I did not understand his explanation at all.
You mean it's like his explanation of the Kessel Run under 12 parsecs, which doesn't make sense either?
Pretty much, yeah. No, he had a reason why he put Buck Rogers in there, but I listened to it like 3 times and my brain broke. And I was like,
does anybody want to explain that?
I don't know why you put Buck Rogers in there. All right, the things I don't understand in this thing. I already talked about the mind block. Like, why did they override the mind block? I talked about that. I think it's just bureaucratic bullshit. I think it was just like when the government the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing.
I think you're right. I think that's what it was. It's the bureaucracy of one, and I see this in my job.
Yeah, really?
I mean, it's you see this one department's doing something, the other department's doing their own thing. They don't realize that those two things are actually kind of the same thing, but they're all spending money and doing their own projects, and nobody really knows what the other people are doing until it ends up blowing up somewhere along the line. So it still happens. Anytime I think you get a large bureaucracy, you're going to have that happen.
You have that, and then you get a mind lock. But then here's the thing, and then somebody drops radiation. Somebody drops radiation, and then the guy goes to jail. Now, here's my question. Did they kill Law? Was she dead? And why did they send him to prison for something that was technically not his fault?
Well, he kind of went. It wasn't just that. It was because of his. Because remember, she was the one trying to mess with his drugs so that he was coming off the drugs.
So none of this was really his fault. Why did he go to prison?
But I think that's what they charged him. I believe they charged him with drug evasion,
not deliberate, not purposeful.
But they don't. Doesn't matter. Apparently, they don't care. It was drug evasion and sexual deviancies, the 2 charges that they gave him. That's why he was in jail.
But she would have
also felt that he wasn't. He could not be rehabilitated.
Why wasn't she in jail? Why
she was? Because remember,
and was she killed? I think she was killed.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask George.
I gotta ask George. I don't know.
So get him on the phone. Ask George right now. I don't think these are things that he expects you to worry about. It's just you're kind of just living this weird thing that he finally just decides he's had enough.
Yeah.
And he kind of just says, I'm going to keep walking in this direction.
His character doesn't talk a lot. His character doesn't say much at all. So he was doing, The other thing I didn't understand was, and I already mentioned this, and I think we don't need to dwell on it, was simply, it's cost efficient. All you have to do is just wait until they exceed budget and you can get away with things, but that's okay. We don't need to dig into that. All roads. I do have roads. If we want to touch on our cast a little bit. Ian Wolfe.
Definitely talk about.
Yeah. So Ian Wolfe, his designation was PTO. You saw him in that void jail with all the others in there. He is from Bread and Circuses and All Our Yesterdays. You should recognize
Mr.
him.
Atoz.
Mr. Atoz. Sid Haig is another one who was in that prison, that big void prison. He was the first lawgiver in Return of the Archons. Susan, what's your name? Susan, someone whose name I don't remember. Stroh, thank you. Susan Stroh. Where did I she actually did script, like she was scripty or continuity on one of the original series documentaries. And finally, Memory Alpha says that THX 1138 is an F-class white star located in Quadrant 3 North near the galactic barrier. So even Star Trek has to give a nod to George Lucas.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So of course, Robert Duvall is our main character. You guys know him from
everything,
from Godfather to Apocalypse Now to, he's just, Days of Thunder, if you're into that sort of thing. I mean, he's like one of those guys everywhere. Great actor.
Donald Pleasence.
Now we all know him.
I think has the performance of the movie, because Sen was unhinged. Like Sen,
but he always kind of plays that character.
Yeah, he kind of does.
You notice he either plays. Well, he's the bad guy because
Donald Pleasence, guys. You know him best maybe from James Bond.
He's Blofeld.
He's where not Austin Powers. Michael Myers got.
Yeah, that's where he got. He was Blofeld in Live and Let Die. No, not Live and Let Die. You only live twice.
Yes.
And he was also in Fantastic Voyage.
Was he?
He was the guy in the bubble. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's the guy in the top that gets eaten by the big giant. Yes, I'm positive. I'm almost positive it was him.
Maybe he was.
I'm telling you, somebody help me out.
I can look it up. Oh, hi, Kent. And Chris and everybody else is here. Don Pedro Colley, he was pretty well known at the time. He is our one African American in the movie. And then there were just a few other: Marshall Efron, James Pierce, James Whedon. I don't know if you can see her shaking right now. It's actively thundering here, and she is shaking.
Maybe I'm wrong. It was Fantastic Voyage.
I know Donald Pleasence best. Didn't he start doing Stargate or something and then passed? And they replaced him with. Now you gotta make me look up. Nothing's good. Nothing's better than Dead Air, where we both look up people on IMDb.
I know, right? That's all right.
We need to have an off-camera producer who can do this.
Right? I mean, I guess I'm wrong. I guess it was somebody else that's a lot like him. I guess I'm wrong. Sorry.
Where are you, Donald Pleasence? Where are you?
Yeah, I don't. What year was
somebody else?
That had to be late 60s, right?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I don't see it. So
he played in Halloween. That's right. Donald Pleasence played in Halloween. And they were so excited to get him, and he was just like, "Yeah, whatever. It's just a paycheck." What a weird career that man had.
But he's always kind of plays kind of a crazy dude, or
he kind of is. All Quiet on the Western Front.
He was in Outer Limits.
Dracula.
Fantastic Voyage. There, I'm right. There it is, 1966.
Great memory. Good for you.
Dr. Michaels, see? Yeah, I knew it. He got eaten by a big old white blood cell, Yeah, see, Christopher Rose. Thank you, Chris.
Oh,
We all got it at the same
I
time.
knew Chris would know it. Chris knows it all.
I knew I was right.
Chris, you're our official off-camera researcher. Chris and Sue, because they Google stuff real quick.
Yeah. So that's kind of the rest of people are just like, yeah. Oh yeah, Johnny Weissmuller Jr., Chrome Robot. Look at that. I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, I saw that. I picked that. When I saw his name in the opening credits, I was like, "Oh, Weissmuller."
I just figured they got some stuntmen or something, or just some
Tarzan.
guys, I just figured that would be somebody just generic, like because they're in the mask, so to speak. That they were robots. So I love the way they always were like, "So I'm here to help you," but yet they have the stick.
Oh,
they have the stick that like shocks you, like. But I'm here to help you.
I'm here to help. The other thing that cracked me up was the confessional and the way. Yes. Can you be more?
My time is your time.
Yes.
That painting is actually from a famous painting.
It is a painting. Yeah, it is
from a famous painting. I assume it was Jesus, but I don't know for the fact that that's who it was supposed to be. But yeah, that was another weird thing. See, now we have religion thrown in there.
Jeffrey Will says, yeah.
Right, he was in Escape from New York too. Yeah, the guy, he has a pretty wide.
What a crazy IMDb Donald Pleasence had.
Yes.
Well. Anyway, so that's our cast. Yes, minimal cast. Not a lot of people going on. Our two leads don't even really say much to each other. They both admitted having reasonably good chemistry with each other. I think they liked each other. But yeah, what a funny little interesting.
She always, I don't know if it's because of the shaved head, but she looks like a little kid.
And she looked worried all the time. Like she constantly looked like she was on the verge.
I just didn't see woman in her. I saw like child all the time.
Yeah.
Now maybe that was
some of the other girls. We did see a couple of the females with shaved heads, and they looked like women with shaved heads.
She has one of those faces that's very with the freckles. Yeah. Maybe that's part of it. But yeah, she didn't have a very long career. Well, it's kind of stretched out, but she did stuff from 1971. Apparently, this was like one of her first films too.
Yeah, she had been
2009 was the last thing she did.
Yeah, so. She did a little interview I saw with her that she had been in theater, and the word came down, hey, there's a Hollywood movie in San Francisco. She was in there, Hollywood movie coming, and everyone can audition for it. And they were all like, oh, the movies. No, we're in theater. We're above that. But then they all showed up for the audition. So yeah, that's the way it works.
But, yeah. So I mean. So let me ask you this. So overall, you saw the movie. Did you like it? Or
I did. I did like it. Now look, for first time outs, I'm going to give it to Spielberg. I like Duel much.
Yeah,
much
I mean,
better.
as a strict entertainment value, Duel's a better.
For entertainment, Duel is the movie. I get that. I get it. Lucas wanted a think piece. Like he had probably been reading. He'd probably been. Well,
he'd been working on. Like I said, this goes all the way back from when he was at USC. The original idea came from his roommate.
It came from two other guys.
And he wrote a short about a guy trying to escape a dystopian society underground.
And then he won like that year's student filmmaker, whatever. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is so amazing!" And then it's clearly meant to be a think piece. He was clearly trying to say some things with it. Good for you, but is it accessible? Is it accessible to the average person?
Well, that's the thing. And you look at Spielberg as a contrast, and he didn't do his think piece till he did Schindler's List.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Or Saving Private Ryan in some degree. Schindler's List was first, right?
Yes.
So I mean, really, when you think about it, look at all the stuff that Spielberg did. They were just straight entertainment movies. Nothing deep in anything. I'm sorry, as far as message wise, maybe Close Encounters a little bit. I don't know. E.T.
He has his messages in there, but it's so accessible to the average person. It's accessible.
Well, I take it back. You know what was probably his first one? Empire of the Sun.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm
going to tell you people, if you've never seen it's not
Color
science
Purple
fiction at all. Color Purple is another one. That's
Color
true.
Purple was a great message
too.
movie.
But
yeah.
That I want to say that's after Empire of the Sun. I could be wrong. But anyway, if you have never seen Empire of the Sun, and it's got a Batman in it.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
What's his name?
Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
But I'm glad Lucas evolved into Star Wars, which is now the most beloved thing. Is the most beloved thing and known worldwide. Yay! Good for you.
And we probably would not have gotten there if we hadn't had this film And then, of course, really wouldn't have gotten there had American Graffiti not been
true. Also true.
A big hit, which is also a great film if you've never seen American Graffiti. Really good film. It had Harrison Ford. You could see where these guys, because, you know, it's funny because even Spielberg would pull people that he's used before because he liked him. You know, certainly Dreyfuss, you know, gets used over and over again in Spielberg films, and Lucas reused Harrison in the, you know, in that. So they tend to gravitate towards certain actors that they like, you know.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And certain themes, like it's Lucas. I was watching this thing and I thought to myself, the man can only paint like he has a color palette. It's got 4 colors, and those are the other colors he paints with. But I don't know. He makes it work. It works for him. It's just the way he does it.
Like I said, if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like I told Mary Beth. I'm like, it's kind of like staple sci-fi enthusiast.
Yeah,
like it's required viewing.
It's required viewing. Required viewing, and we take your nerd card away.
You know, it's like Metropolis and you know,
all the classics. You need to know the Harry
the classics. You know, the Day the Earth Stood Still, Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, exactly. And
so this one goes. This one definitely falls into that category where it's
absolutely.
If you have to give a primer for science fiction, if I was going to give a college level class on science fiction films, this would be one of them.
Yes.
I don't think anybody would ever let me teach that class.
Well, wait, we teach every Wednesday night at 7.
2001's another one.
Every year.
yeah. Well, that's just me rambling about stuff. It's not really a class.
You need a syllabus for Sci-Fi Distilled.
You don't need it. Yeah, I mean, when I do my little Star Trek roundtables, it's you know, it's just a ramblings, and I tell people how bad Voyager was, and see who agrees. Anyway, it's just fun. It's just for fun. So, I think Roy's going to finally get his Indiana Jones.
Yes, Roy's, because Friday is Dial of Destiny's debut. So, of course,
well, he was supposed to do it last week, but he ran into some tech issues. He was
going to the Yakutas, and then they got pushed. So then he did the Yakutas.
He did Mike's Sunday, I think. He did Mike's Sunday.
I tuned into like half of it. Yeah, it was pretty good, actually. So he will be doing Indiana Jones. And then Phil, I think I'm jumping on with, I think I am, but I'm really not sure what's happening. I'm jumping on with Phil, I think, to interview Jean-Paul Vest. I don't know Jean-Paul Vest, but I'm going to talk to him. And I will also talk about Mr. Shatner's visit. And then he will be talking to Michael Schilling about Shore Leave, which happens to be the exact same weekend as Mr. Shatner. But that's okay.
Well, they're thousands of miles apart.
They're thousands of miles, or maybe just 500 miles apart.
No, it's
Maryland, right?
Maryland, so it might be under 1,000, but pretty close enough.
And then,
far enough that people are not going to probably either going to go one or the other.
And then at midnight, the whole station does a 3-day reggae music fest. So hey, enjoy that reggae.
Yeah. Oh, good. And next week, I don't know what we're doing.
We don't know what we're doing, but it'll be July, and it'll be the day before Shatner starts, so I'll be frazzled anyway. So I'm hoping for something light, fluffy,
fun. What do you guys have any ideas what he wants to do?
How about Twister? I just reported on Twister. We could do Twister.
Is that really? Well,
not really. No, it's not. But it's not with the special effect. Cow.
We got cows.
Cow.
Did you ever go to the? I don't know if is it Universal or is it Disney? I think it's Universal that had it. I think it's Universal had the Twister ride.
I'm sure they did.
It wasn't really a ride. Like you walk through and you're like, at one point you're on this like it looks like a Kansas farm out in front of you.
Oh, cool.
And you're on the porch of this farmhouse, and then the tornado comes. And like
that's
you're
cool.
like under this porch, but like literally it's that kind of experience where like
that's cool.
Things are, and they somehow do it. They did it so like you feel wind and you see things swirling around in front of you. They do a really good job.
I lived in
Universal. I haven't been in years. I don't even know if it's still there because I haven't been to Universal.
Well, they update those things, so they probably got a new one.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's still there.
I've lived through a few real tornado warnings, and they're not quite so exciting.
It was pretty. I want to say it was realistic, but I mean, it was pretty intense for a ride. It was felt like Of course, they used to have the Ghostbusters. They got rid of that one. So
they changed it up. They always get new movies in there. So
the Ghostbusters was a good one too. Anyway, Back to the Future ride was kick-ass too on that in that Universal. Yeah.
So what do you guys want us
So,
to do?
I don't know. What do you want us to do?
On the
Maybe
day.
I always say, give us suggestions, and nobody gives us suggestions. So Chris is
You're
always
supposed to come on and join
Chris
us.
wants to do the
Chris
Shadow.
joins us.
I'd have to watch it, Chris. I don't think I've ever seen the Shadow film. The one with is it Alec Baldwin? Was that the one? Was that the Shadow? Didn't they do a film?
Wait, Kristen, we already do the Shadow? No, we did the Phantom.
We did the Phantom, which was I think a better movie, but I can't really say that because I never saw the Shadow, so
Maybe we do the Shadow.
don't know. But I really like the Phantom. Anyway, we'll figure it out as usual. I don't know. We'll come up. We'll do it something light for Mary Beth.
I don't. The brain, no brain. I can't have a brain next week.
It's fine. We've done this so many times. It's got to be like.
How are we? We're like in 3 years of this. Actually, Roy said he's in season
2018.
4.
May of 2018 was the first Shatner we did.
No. Oh,
Yep.
Shatner. I thought you meant Sci-Fi Distill. I was
Oh
like,
no, 2000. Oh, this 2000.
2000. Yeah. So we're in 3 years.
2020. Was the
Yeah.
first.
No, Mr. Shatner.
April.
20 is his 9th visit. I was thinking about that. Somebody was asking me like, what are his bridge chats like? And I'm like, girl, he's done. If he does 4 a visit and he's visited 9 times, the man's done 36 bridge chats, and all 30 has been 36 different bridge chats.
They're always different. Yeah.
They're always different.
Yep. It's whatever he wants to talk about,
Whatever
or
he wants to
he
talk about.
finds somebody interesting in the audience. He like
The man is a force of nature. Nothing can control him. Not
He
us.
really is.
Not CBS. Nobody.
Dark Shadows. That's an old series. I'd have to watch that one. Chris.
How
I think I remember watching a few of them when I was a kid in Reno.
But if we're gonna do vampires, we got to do what we do in shadows. That's
if we do in the shadows. I've never seen it. I've been.
it's funny. It's very, very tongue in cheek. Very.
Yeah,
it's what Taika Waititi. So it's very.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Maybe I gotta. There's so many things to watch. So I was going to ask you quickly before we do end. You started to talk about the Disney, the one with Samuel L. Jackson there.
Oh, that's going to be well, except for the controversy about the opening credits. That is going to be quite because everyone could be a Skrull and you don't know, and they've already tricked me twice. So it's going to be quite the convoluted tale, and it's going to.
I don't know what the premise is, but so you're saying it's worth watching? Okay.
Yeah. Well, if you're into Marvel, sure. If you enjoy Samuel L. Jackson, which I do.
Well, who doesn't? He's going to narrate my life story.
He's good at everything. He is in everything. Like,
All right. On that note, we are past 8 o'clock. We'll figure out something for next week. We like keep you in suspense. You'll have to wait.
I like to know
what we post. I know you like to know. I'll try to figure something out. It's been a busy week for me work wise. I haven't had the bandwidth. So, all right, guys. Good night. We'll see you. Live long and prosper. Hopefully, the dog will calm
from
down.
The storms. Yeah, she's freaking out.
We will see you next week. Bye-bye.